Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're looking at some truly fascinating new data that challenges something pretty much all of us just take for granted. Let's dive right in, shall we? We are examining our universally accepted exercise guideline. You know the one, that public health recommendation plastered on gym walls, health websites, and those little pamphlets at the doctor's office. We're going to unpack a major observational study recently published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that basically asks us to completely rethink how we view our weekly workouts. So the big question, is 150 minutes of exercise a week actually enough? We all know the 150-minute rule, right? It's the familiar baseline expectation, the golden rule that says if we manage 2.5 hours of moderate to vigorous exercise a week, we're doing right by our heart health. It's a highly achievable goal, and man, it feels good to hit it. But the researchers in this new study started asking if this one-size-fits-all advice is actually delivering the level of protection we think it is. And here's the reality check. 8 to 9%. That is the modest reduction in cardiovascular risk you buy yourself when you hit that familiar 150-minute baseline. Now, according to the data, hitting that current public health recommendation absolutely does help. But a single-digit percentage drop in the risk of heart attacks and strokes? That might be quite a bit lower than what many of us naturally assume we're getting when we check off our weekly exercise goals. It's a great start, for sure, but it is just that, a start. To achieve a substantial drop in risk, you need a lot more. We've kind of got to pivot our narrative here. We need to move away from the myth that this basic guideline provides this immense, bulletproof protection against cardiovascular events. The reality of what it actually takes to get substantial heart benefits is, well, quite different. The researchers found that if you really want to armor your heart, you absolutely cannot just stop at the 150-minute mark. You've got to push well beyond it. The reality of what that takes is pretty stark. While our standard 150 minutes nets that 8 to 9% reduction, the bombshell finding is this: to drop your risk of a cardiovascular event by over 30%, which the study classifies as substantial protection, you actually need 560 to 610 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise a week. Yeah, you heard that right. That is 3 to 4 times higher than the current public health recommendation. What's really interesting here is the sheer exclusivity of that optimal tier. 12% achieved the optimal target, meaning 88% did not. Only 12% of the people in the study actually hit that 560 to 610-minute target. And let's be honest, that makes perfect sense. 600 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise, that's roughly 10 hours a week. That is a massive time commitment for a typical adult juggling work, family, the whole shebang. It shows us just how rare optimal cardiovascular protection actually is in practice. Now, you might be wondering, how do we know these numbers are actually accurate? Let's look at the rigorous methodology behind this, the UK Biobank study. The researchers looked at 17,088 participants with an average age of 57, and here is the gold standard detail. They didn't rely on people's flaky memories to track exercise. They used real device-measured activity tracking. Participants literally wore devices on their wrists for 7 consecutive days. They estimated VO2 max through cycle tests, and then followed these people for an average of nearly 8 years to see who actually experienced cardiovascular events, like heart attacks or strokes. Which leads us to a fascinating nuance in the data. Does everyone need the exact same amount of exercise to get these benefits? This brings us to the hidden variable that makes the whole one-size-fits-all 150-minute rule fundamentally flawed. You see, we're all starting from different baselines, and our bodies do not all process physical exertion in the exact same way. Let's define the key metric at play here, VO2 max. It's the maximum rate of oxygen the body consumes and uses during intense exercise. Simply put, it's how efficiently your heart, lungs, and muscles deliver and use oxygen. This fitness level varies wildly from person to person, and as the researchers point out, low cardiorespiratory fitness is strongly associated with an increased risk of heart attacks, strokes, and early death. This creates a somewhat unfair reality. Less fit people have a steeper mountain to climb. The data show that your baseline fitness matters immensely. If you have lower cardiorespiratory fitness, you actually have a tougher road ahead. The study suggests that people who are less fit need to do slightly more exercise than those who are already very fit just to get the exact same cardiovascular benefits. Let's contrast some specific data points to make this concrete. Look at the time needed for a 20% risk reduction. An individual in the highest fitness category needs to do about 340 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise a week, but an individual in the lowest fitness category needs 370 minutes to achieve that exact same 20% reduction. The less fit you are, the more work your body requires to reap the same biological rewards. It's just how the math works out. So the crucial point is right here. Roughly 30 to 50 additional minutes. That is the extra time per week that those with the lowest baseline fitness need to spend exercising just to level the playing field with their highly fit peers. The researchers explicitly noted that this finding highlights the steeper challenge faced by deconditioned populations. If you're out of shape, getting into the protective zone literally takes more time. So what does this all mean? Well, it requires a total shift in our perspective. The 150-minute rule is a basic safety minimum, not the optimal target. It's not that the standard guideline is wrong. The study totally confirmed that it works consistently across all levels of fitness to provide that initial 8 to 9% risk reduction. But we need to reframe what it means. It is a universal safety net. It should absolutely not be viewed as the ultimate optimal target for heart protection if your goal is substantial risk reduction. I want to read the researchers' exact conclusion here because it hits the nail on the head. Future guidelines may need to differentiate between the minimal, moderate to vigorous exercise volume required for a basic safety margin and the substantially higher volumes necessary for optimal cardiovascular risk reduction. That terminology is key, right? A basic safety margin versus optimal. They're arguing that public health advice needs to evolve from a blanket statement to stratified advice that helps motivated people hit personalized targets. Okay, so how do we apply this? Here are 3 clear steps for rethinking your routine based on this explainer. Step 1. View 150 minutes as the safety baseline. It's the bare minimum to keep the engine running, not the finish line. Step 2. Consider your personal fitness, your VO2 max. If you're starting from a highly deconditioned state, understand that you might need a bit more volume to see major changes. And step 3. Set personalized exercise targets. Ditch the one-size-fits-all mindset and figure out what volume of exercise actually matches your specific health goals and your current fitness reality. Which leaves us with a final provocative question to reflect on. Look at your own weekly routine. Are you aiming for the safety minimum or optimal protection? Hitting 150 minutes is great, but as we've seen today, if you want to drop your risk by over 30%, it might be time to start adding some extra minutes to the clock. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the data, and most importantly, keep moving.